Hey, what's up YouTube? This is No Budget Duelist bringing you the first video of my new series called Original Concept Budget Decks. So, basically the series is I come up with an idea for a budget deck, or one of you guys, my subscribers, comes up with a concept for a budget deck. I make the deck, I test the deck, I get the deck working as well as I can get it personally, and then put my own personal tech cards in there, and then I present it to you guys as a quote finished product. Although you can always make your own changes to these decks, because that's what Yu-Gi-Oh is about: making your own changes to decks that already exist and making your own deck ideas. I happen to want to try to be the second one, and also do it in a way that won't burn a giant hole in your wallets. So, to begin with the deck list, we have 3 Hush Psychic Clerics, 2 Serene Psychic Witch, 3 Overdrive Teleporters, 2 Mental Seekers, 2 Doctor Craniums, 1 Silent Psychic Wizard, 2 Effect Veilers, 1 Esper Girl, 1 Psychic Jumper, 1 Sangan, and 3 Jurrac Guaibas. Now for spells, we have 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, 2 Creature Swaps, 2 Emergency Teleports, 2 Brain Research Labs, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 for 1, Forbidden Lance, 1 Miracle Synchro Fusion, 1 of each of Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, and Monster Reborn, and a Fossil Dig. And for the traps, we only run 5. It's 3 Call the Haunted and 2 Bottomless Trap Hole. Now for the extra deck, we're running 1 Evilzar Dolka, 1 Evilzar Lagia, and 1 Windham Zen Mains, Nauteria Exterio, an Ultimate Axon Kicker, Nat Beast, Nat Barkion, Hyper Psychic Blaster, Stardust Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Brionac, Dragon Ice Barrier, and Allied Justice Catastor. And on here I have Magical Android. This is the level 6 Synchro Psychic guy that, like, this weird dragon-y thingy. And then the Archfiend guy. I don't use the Archfiend guy. I'd rather go with Scrap Dragon simply because it's getting reprinted with Dolka and Zen Mains in an upcoming tin, as you guys probably already know if you're at all involved with Yu-Gi-Tube. So, that's just a simple change that I would make to this. I just grabbed the image off of a Dueling Network earlier today. So, the various tech I have in this deck, I'm going to start with the Brain Research Lab. Originally, I didn't run Brain Research Lab simply because I didn't really think it was necessary, and 2, I didn't think it really did much, because once it leaves the field, you take damage. But I'm gonna read the card text for you. Once per turn, you can normal summon or set 1 Psychic type monster in addition to your normal summon or set this turn. If successful, place 1 Psychic counter on this card. And then, as many times as you want per turn, doesn't say that on the card, you can put 1 Psychic counter on this card instead of paying life points to activate a Psychic monster's effect. Now, the drawback to this is, when Brain Research Lab leaves the field, you take 1,000 damage for each counter on the card. Now, that may seem like a negative, but I'll go into the combo later. The Guaiba and Fossil Dig, simply because this deck is really good at locking down spells and traps, simply because the Syrian Beast and Barkion are just really designed for that. But it can't do anything about monster effects inherently. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Went on YouTube, saw my friend Team Sloppy Taters with this Hero Dino Control deck, and I was like, Jurrac Guaiba. I'm going to throw that in there somehow. So I cut a couple monsters and added Effect Veilers, and then added the Guaibas, just because now I have a better way of dealing with monster effects. So the lockdown can be a little more complete. And the Fossil Dig just adds extra consistency to that play. Otherwise, I just have 3 Guaibas in my deck and I have to draw into it. But if you draw into Fossil Dig, you deck thin, and you're pulling out your Guaiba plays faster. Now, the reason why I run Triple Call in this deck is because you've got your Doctor Craniums for when your opponent attacks you. You'll take 100 less damage, and you get to search for your Overdrive Teleporter. You got your Serene Psychic Witch, which summons monsters from your deck, and you've got Sangan, which just straight up searches for things for monsters from your deck. Now, keep in mind that while you can't chain Call the Haunted to MST to summon out Doctor Cranium and get its effect, you can still get its effect with Sangan and Serene Psychic Witch. That's why I run Triple Call in this deck, because I run a Sangan and 2 Serene Psychic Witch, and frankly, this card is just amazing with them, because 1, you bait out your opponent's MSTs and Heavy Storms, and you plus off of it. So, that's one of the things that I enjoy about this game. Being able to turn your opponent's attempted 1-for-1s into pluses for you. So, they benefit you without even knowing that they're actually benefiting you. And the last thing I'd like to talk about for tech is the fact that I don't run either Solemn Judgment, Solemn Warning, or Torrential Tribute. And this deck is a lockdown deck, and it's a lockdown deck based on having monsters on the field. So Torrential is the obvious choice to not pick. Otherwise, I blow up my whole field, and my setup is gone. Because you need to make the setup in this deck, and it's capable of doing it in 1 turn. So why would you torrential your whole field and eliminate all of the things that you've worked for when you could instead just bottomless their monster, because they don't have that much of a choice. They have to get a big monster. And it doesn't run Solemn Warnings or Judgments simply because this deck requires you to have large sums of life points just to spit out of nowhere. And Solemn Warning makes you pay 2,000 life points, which is the same cost as it is to, you know, do an entire Overdrive Teleporter play, and Solemn Judgment requires you to pay half of your life points, whether that's 8,000 or 200. Of course, it's always a live card, but it could potentially make your psychic plays dead, which you don't want in this deck, otherwise you are screwed. Now I'd like to go through the combo for you all really quickly. The first turn combo for this deck would be if you have Brain Research Lab, Hyper Psychic Cleric, Emergency Teleport, and Overdrive Teleport in your hand, and then, of course, you still have 2 other cards. Now, your normal summon Hyper Psychic Cleric, his effect activates and switches into a defense mode. Now you play Emergency Teleport and summon Esper Girl from your deck, unless you have it in your hand, in which case you go for the Psychic Jumper, which is still a level 2 tuner, and it's still a viable target. Now, you activate your Brain Research Lab, and then you tribute Esper Girl for Overdrive Teleporter, and that puts 1 counter on Brain Research Lab, because that is your second normal summon this turn. Now you activate Overdrive Teleporter's effect, you put the second counter onto Brain Research Lab, and you summon Hyper Psychic Cleric and Mental Seeker. Now you activate the first Hyper Psychic Cleric's effect, and banish Esper Girl by discarding 1 card from your hand, or the Psychic Jumper if that's what you had to summon from your deck. Now, you Synchro for Naturia Barkion with the Hyper Psychic Cleric you just used, and Mental Seeker. Now you use the second Mental Seeker's effect to banish, and you use the second Hyper Psychic Cleric's effect and banish Mental Seeker from your graveyard. And you now you have now you have Esper Girl on the field because of the first Hyper Psychic Cleric. So now you use Synchro for Naturia Beast. Now you have Naturia Beast, Naturia Barkion, Overdrive Teleporter, and now the Hyper Psychic Cleric's effect activates and summons back your Mental Seeker. Now you Synchro with Mental Seeker and Overdrive Teleporter, and you make Hyper Psychic Blaster. Now you have a 3,000 attack beater that punishes your opponent for setting monsters. You have monster that negates all spells, and you have monster that negates all traps on the field. Basically, if your opponent's not running Inzectors, they're losing at this point. So yeah, that's basically the deck for you. I'd like, favorite, subscribe, and all that stuff. If you enjoyed this, leave a comment in the comment section below if you want to change something to this deck. But don't just be like, oh my god, you don't run any Solemns in this deck, you don't run any Torrentials, you're a noob. I explained that in the video. I explained why I don't run those cards in the video. So, if you're not watching at this point, and you made that comment in the description, I'm going to leave the comment back to you. And I'll also leave the price of the entire deck in the description, with just the necessary cards to make the deck, and then with all the extra cards, because the extra cards adds another, like, $70 onto the deck. So, hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice day, YouTube.